Okay, we're back. This is the regular sewing machine, and what you're seeing is the upper tension dial. You'll notice that I've got it set to 8. Normal on this machine would be 5, the equivalent of 5, and I dialed it up. I think 9 is as high as it'll go, so I've got it pretty strong. But I've done it many, many times, and I know on my machine that's what it takes. I'm going to go ahead and sew across the panty or the crotch liner opposite of the crotch seam. Crotch seam is here, and so this is the other end of the liner. Now I'm gonna also just a reminder, we're doing a straight stitch, and I've got the stitch length to be fairly long. Mine's on a 6, and I've got my twin needle indicator on. Not all machines require that. If you don't have this button, or your computer manual, whatever, doesn't have that, then you don't need to worry about it. I do have a sewing machine that does not require that special setting. Alright, so I'm using my index finger on the left hand to feel where the edge of this liner is. You do have to do twin needle on the outside of a garment. If I turn this upside down, I would not get the results I'm wanting. Alright, here we go. And it looks like I stretched my liner out of shape a little bit, but it's not going to be a big deal. Alright, I'm going to cut it off the machine so I can turn it over and show you the top side of a twin needle seam. Looks like that. Looks like the most beautiful top stitching ever, but that's because the needle did that. I've got a little bit of warping because I was pulling on it and I shouldn't have. It'll come out, it'll be fine. Alright, now let me show you the underside. We'll see if the camera can pick that up. It's making a zigzag. Can you see that? It's really hard to see. So what I'm going to do is do a bit of it on a dark sample just to show you. Oh. That's a lovely problem. I had my strings so short that they pulled out immediately. Now you get to watch me rethread my twin needles. I have to put my finger back there so I can see the hole. I remember my grandmother calling me and asking me to come over and thread her needles. I failed to appreciate the problem back then. Alright, got it. Alright. Well, so that highlights the need for leaving a nice long tail. Always. I have got somebody twisted. There we go. Okay, here we go. What you're hearing is my spools of thread that are in the back side of the machine jumping and wiggling. Okay, top side. Nice even row of stitches, and you can see how long they are. That just looks better. It's not functional so much, the stitch length, just for looks. Now, see the back side? Ah, sorry about that. I got this tail stuck in there. But what I want you to notice, this string here that's going back and forth, that is your bobbin string. Okay, now I'm going to change my tension dial back to what my machine would consider normal to show you what you don't want to have happen on a twin needle. Second round. I'm going to turn it over. Oh, my girl cooperated. She did a perfect twin needle. Well, let me see if I can get it to do the bad job. Isn't that just like a sewing machine? They do what you want them. When you want them to do it, they won't, and when you don't want them to, they do. They like to be contrary. Still not getting it to do it. Well, I will try and explain what happens when you... It's really a good idea to test and test until you get your machine settings to cooperate. What you don't want to see on the underside is a straight string going across here with almost making like the letter H over and over and over next to each other. That straight string will actually be the bobbin thread, and you can give it a pull and it immediately comes out. There's no strength or durability to that seam. You really need to have it be a zigzag on the underside, and because it's a zigzag on the underside, you would think this would break if I pull on it, but it doesn't. See that? I'm really stretching and pulling. That is because it's actually a stretch stitch. The zigzag makes it stretchy. Okay? So it makes it an ideal solution to sewing things like this on a pair of panties. If I turn them right side out, you can see that looks nice. Now we can also zigzag across there. It looks fine too. All of those possibilities are out there for you, whatever you prefer to do. You know, I like to stick a twin needle in. I do it all the time. Like now, when you get your band put on here, and some people like to top stitch, the twin needle is a great top stitching tool if you like to do that. I find it fine to not top stitch on the undies, but everybody has their own preference. So I also use it when I'm doing hemming on anything knit. Well, actually even on cottons or wovens. I like the way it's so tidy. Makes you look like you're an incredible seamstress. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and look at the next steps over here. Once you've got the liner secured on the inside, we no longer have to worry about what it's going to do when we are sewing our bands on. Now, you should have 2 leg bands like this and 1 belly band cut out. Your leg bands will be 3 inches wide and your belly band will be 4 inches. You will have folded them in half like so, and then sewn across the end. Again, the measurements given to you in the pattern include a 1/2 inch seam. I like to use a straight stitch to do this because I can get it to lay nice and flat like this, and it doesn't add a lot of bulk. If I use a serger, I've got both of the seam fabrics to one side, which is much thicker. And for adult underwear, I would just prefer to eliminate as much bulk as possible. On the children's underwear, I use a serger. Okay, so once you've got that seam sewn, and in my case, I was upcycling, so I actually had to put a couple pieces together in order to have enough to make a belly band. So mine's going to be a little bit strange, but you're going to find a way to break this up into 4 equal quadrants, I call them. There's probably a more fancy name, but you see, so I folded it in half. I lined up these 2 seams because it seemed sensible for what I've got. And I've got a pin on both folds. And what I did was fold it in half because I don't think this needs to be an exact science, and put a pin in. And you can see it's a little bit off. Maybe I can move it over. It really wouldn't have mattered. A 1/4 inch or an 1/8 inch in this stretchy piece isn't going to be a big deal. Okay, so once you've done that, you've got to get this attached to the panty. So your next step will be to fold this down. So now, instead of being a 3 or a 4 inch band, it's going to be a 2 inch band. Like this. And for the sake of the length of the video, I'm not going to be going all the way around doing this, but I want you to very carefully get those cut edges to be lined up perfectly all the way around. When you do that, go ahead and transfer that pin so that it holds those cut edges together, because you're not going to want to do it more than once. It's not that fun. Okay, I'll go ahead and do one opposite. All right. So that would be, let's just say I went all the way around. That would mean my waistband is ready to get pinned to the underwear. I would repeat that same process for the leg bands for both of them. And you see, I had to piece that one as well. I like to upcycle. Now, I want to talk just a little bit about where you place the seams. On the leg bands, for example, I much prefer that it be not located on my hip because I'll feel that. I obviously wouldn't like it around the backside because when I sit, if I happen to sit on that seam, that's not going to be very comfortable. I really don't want the bulk of it right in the front.